Okay, so thanks for being on, you guys. Hopefully this is beneficial to you. I just want to start by saying I am not a financial advisor, so I'll do my best to, tell you what I know. This is really just from learning things over the years. Some of it's from childhood, some of it's from just adulthood and learning things. So I just want you guys to know that I don't know all the things, but I'm going to do my best to tell you what I do to save money, build wealth, pay off debt, all of those things. Okay. So if you have a pen and paper, you might want to take notes because I'm going to give you a lot of names. I'm going to give you a lot of things. So first things first, we're going to start with the very beginning. This is very basic. Hopefully you all have this, but if you don't, first thing you need to do is open up a checking account and open up a savings account. Find a bank that is free, that doesn't charge you, because that's important. You want to make sure that you're not being charged for an account. Most of the time they're free, but there are some banks that charge you. So find a bank that you can open up a checking and a savings account. Do that first. And then the first thing we're going to start doing, and I do a lot of Dave Ramsey. I don't do all Dave Ramsey because there's a couple things I disagree with him on, but I will teach you some of the things that he teaches. I've gone through his workshop, the Financial Peace University, several times. I've read his book. So there's a lot of things that I got from him as well. So I am going to teach some of that. So one of the things he says, and what I'm going to say is start an emergency fund. This emergency fund is $1,000. So whatever you can do to save $1,000, whether it's $10 every time you get paid, $50 every time you get paid, $100 every time you get paid, $500, whatever you can do. Okay. But be smart about that. And I'm going to talk about things you can cut out of your life that can help you save money quicker, things you can do to also get more money from like working other jobs, things like that. We'll talk about all that. So once you have your emergency fund in place, then you're going to try to start saving a little bit more. So I actually like to have a separate savings for this. So I have 2 savings, 1 checking, and 1 bank. I have some other places too, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So 1 checking, 1 savings. 1 savings is emergency only. I do not touch that. That is for emergencies only. Then I have another savings account, which is 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So that's the other thing you want to do is figure out how much does it cost you to live. And if it's $3,000 a month, let's just say, then your next savings account is going to go to $3,000, okay, for 1 month. And then you got to go 3, 6, 9. So $9,000 for 3 months. And then of course you're going to double that if it's 6 months. So 3 to 6 months of living expenses, just in case of something happens, somebody lost their job, whatever. So it's really, really important to have that. And remember, these are savings accounts. That means you don't touch them. They're not so that you can pull from them when you want to buy something you don't need. Okay. So that's not what that's for. So, and we will talk about how to get these savings accounts done in a minute. So one of the things that I do is every single time that we get a paycheck, a certain amount comes out. I always do 10% first to God because that's my tithe. So 10% to God, 10% to myself. I pay bills. This is how I always do it. So 10% God, 10% myself. And then and 10% myself is savings. Okay. So 10% to savings. And then I pay all the bills. And then whatever is left over, I put in savings. So that's what I do. I don't go and buy coffees at Starbucks and go get my nails done, get my hair done. You guys, I haven't gotten my hair done in 2 years. This is all natural. Okay. It's growing out with the gray and I'm okay with it. Okay. So just, I don't do the things that I don't need to do. I used to get my lashes done. I don't get that done anymore. So I'm just a very simple, basic person, very low maintenance. Okay. So, don't do the things you don't need to do. Save as much money as you possibly can. If you really feel like you have to go and, get a coffee one day or something, like put that money aside, that's fine. Put the rest in savings so that you can save up really quickly for these savings accounts. Okay. Also, I would have it automatically set up. That's what I do.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's a bill. Okay. So it's like, just pretend like it's a bill.
And
Oh, was someone talking? Sorry. I just muted everybody thinking it was an accident, but if somebody was trying to say something, you can unmute yourself. So pretend like it's a bill, pretend like it's something that you actually have to pay and you won't even miss it. So let's say you're putting $300 every paycheck into a savings account, or just say $100, because I know $300 might be a lot. $100 into a savings account every time you get paid. So you should be saving about $200 every month that way, right? But you might be getting a little bit more because remember, 10% tithe, 10% yourself. What's a typical paycheck? I don't know, let's just say $2,000 to make it easy. So if you're making $2,000 every 2 weeks, well, then you're paying yourself $200 in a savings account once. And then again, so you're saving $400 a month. So see how quickly you can save that. But if you don't allot that money, if you don't tell this money where to go, it's going to go somewhere else. And you're going to be like, where did it go? I have no idea. So think about the things like, what are you buying that you don't need? I talked about this a minute ago. Coffees. Like I make my coffee every morning at home before I leave. I don't buy a coffee at any of the places because they are astronomically high anyway. I'm not going to get out of there for less than $6 for a coffee. And I can make it here at home for like 30 cents. So that adds up a ton every single day. So coffee, Amazon. Amazon's a really big one for a lot of people. I know for me personally, man, I get my Amazon bill and I'm like, what did we even buy? So that's probably my biggest struggle is Amazon, because we're like, oh, we need some new tongs and, things that we think we need for the house or whatever. And then we're like, what did we buy? So just pay attention to what you're paying, what you're buying, because your money will go somewhere if you don't tell it where to go. How many times are you going out to eat? This is such a big one, especially for the United States of America. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, we love the convenience of not cooking. And so we go out to eat, or we grab this, we grab that, and it's super easy. But if you plan your meals and if you plan ahead and if you grocery shop and you have all that planned out, you are less likely to eat out. It will save you $1,000 a month easily. I have friends who go out to eat and they will spend $1,000 a month and then they wonder where their money went. And it went to food, which is crazy. I spend about $600 a month on groceries for my family of 7, and we don't go out to eat. We go out to eat once a year per person for their birthday, and that is it. So we go out to eat 7 times a year. My husband and I have a few more than that, date nights, just he and I, but as a family of 7, we go out to eat 7 times a year, and that is it. So maybe plan something like that, like how often are we going to go out to eat? This is a special deal, even if I know that we're going to be on the road, because this is a lot of people's excuse. Well, oh, but I have sports and I got to go here and I got to go there and I got to run. And so we just pick something up. Plan ahead, have it in your car, have some kind of snacks in your car that can hold people over till they get home for dinner, have dinner at a weird time. Like we eat dinner at 4:30 sometimes, just because it's the time that people can eat before we are off and crazy. So you got to plan. The only time you can ever touch your emergency fund is if you're going to add to it. So that's another thing. I just forgot to mention that part. So I wanted to tell you about a savings account that I personally have. I do not get anything for telling you about this. I want you to know that it's just an account that makes 5% and it is a savings account. It's incredible. It's from Fidelity Investments. I didn't even know about Fidelity Investments until my dad passed away in July, and he left some money to my siblings and I in there, and it was like an inherited account, like a retirement account essentially. So the only thing that I had to do differently was set up an individual account. So they have these individual accounts with Fidelity Investments, and they make 5%, and it is completely liquid. So you can take money in, take money out. It takes like 2 to 3 days to transfer, but it's not something it's not a CD. It's not stuck in a CD or anything, but it's making like CD money. So 5%, very, very cool. You'll get paid once a month on that. So like whatever amount you put in there at the end of the month, it'll pay you 5% for the year. So you have to go, if I have, $1,000 in there times 5% and then divided by 12, that's how much you're going to get in the account every single month, but it will change, of course, as the amount goes up. So compounding. Anyway, so that's my little secret one that I think is great. Track your spending, you guys. This is so big. Like I said earlier, if you don't track your spending, it's going to go somewhere and you're not going to know where it went because you didn't tell it where to go. There are budgeting apps like Mint and EveryDollar. I know I think you have to pay for EveryDollar if you get like the more enhanced version. That's the one that Dave Ramsey recommends. Don't have to do that, but I do think it's really important to sit and do a budget. I actually do a budget on paper because I like it. I like to look at it. I like to write it down. I'm weird. But I don't even do an Excel sheet. Some people do that. I just like to write it out. Every single month I do that. I write it out. So however you do your budget, but you need to tell your money where it's going to go, or it's just going to leave and you're going to have no idea where it went. Avoid debt. This is so big because I can't tell you how many people as a realtor where I see and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, how are you owing on 5 things right now? Like, how did you even get approved for this other thing, you know? So it breaks my heart really, because then people are struggling and they can't pay for things because they've got all these payments they have to make. So whatever you do, try to avoid debt in all circumstances. Live below your means. So many of us are living above our means and we're spending every single bit of our paycheck. Look at your paycheck more as like, I want to only spend half of it if I can. And instead, and the rest of it, I'm going to save and I'm going to put aside here and I'm going to put aside here for different things. But I'm not going to go to Target just because I have an extra $100 in my paycheck. Don't do that. If you have an extra $100, put it in your savings account. This is going to build wealth over time. Here's one of the things that people will say here. Well, I work really hard, so I deserve a new car. What you really deserve is having a car that's paid for completely. Because think about this too. Your car is still going to break down sometimes. You're still going to have maintenance. You're still going to have to put new tires on it. You're still going to have to fix your cracked windshield, you know, whatever, all the things that happen, you still have to do those things. So wouldn't it be better if you don't have a payment on that car? So that way, when those things come about, it's not so hard to put new tires on your car. So you deserve to have a paid off car. All of you do. And that's super important. So I have always been taught, and I teach my kids this, you can't afford it till you have the money. So save up, take your time and save up. Don't be impulsive, and then pay cash for a vehicle. I've never believed in having vehicle debt ever because it depreciates. It's not an asset. I think it's okay to get a mortgage, and that's because a house, a property, it appreciates. Land, it appreciates. Any type of property appreciates. And so for me, that's the only thing I'll ever have debt on. It's the only debt I have is my house. And it's good debt because it's an asset and it's already gone up in value since we moved in 2020. Okay. So I'm also very big on, if you don't own a house, start saving up for a down payment for a house, because that is the biggest investment you will ever make. That's the reason that we have the house we have today, is because I grabbed the equity from the house from a long time ago, put it in the next house. Then I took that equity, put it in the next house, took that equity, put it in the next house. Okay. And that is how I have built wealth with properties. I don't have it, but it's in my home. So when I sell my home, I'll have it. Right. So it's almost like your home is a bank account for holding that amount of money, but it's also increasing. It's about 4.9% every single year is what what a home goes up in value, appreciates. So very cool. Make a plan, make a budget, plan every dollar or it will get away from you. I've said this a lot. I also talked about meal planning when you grocery shop. There's an app I wrote on here called Flip. It's FLIPP. It's a great app if you're wanting to plan ahead before you go to the grocery store, or even just when you get there. You don't really have to plan ahead. You can just go, oh, let me see what's on sale today. I'm going to Aldi, so I'm going to go to my Flip app. I'm going to click on it, and here it is, FLIPP, and it will tell me what all the deals are. I can just type in Aldi. It will tell me what's going on. Or maybe I'm just in town and I'm like, what grocery store has avocados on sale? Well, I can type in avocados and it will tell me all the prices of all the grocery stores around me for that specific product that I'm looking for. So if you want to find the best deal on groceries, go to Flip. It's a free app. Again, I don't get anything for telling you about it. I'm just trying to pass on the things I know. And you can type in Aldi or whatever, company you want to go to, or you can type in the specific products. Okay. Another thing that we do in our family specifically, because we're a family of 7, is every year we get a half a cow. So that can be one big expense at a time, but you end up getting, not just ground beef, but like all the nice fillets and all the roasts and all of this and all of that for about $4 a pound. So it's a huge savings over the time. And yeah, at the one time we might spend like $800 on half a cow, or maybe 1,000. I don't remember exactly what it is, but for a half a cow, we end up getting 300 pounds of meat, and it lasts us a whole year for our family of 7. So that's another thing that we do to save money. And so when we do get groceries, we're just getting like produce and snacks and things like that, cheese, meat, all that. Eat leftovers. This is another one. Eat leftovers. I know a lot of people don't like to eat leftovers, but that will save you money. I mean, that's what we had for dinner tonight. Neither one of us had to cook. We had leftovers from 2 nights ago, which we ate last night and tonight. So we didn't have to cook the last 2 nights because we had leftovers. And so it also not only saved us money because we would have been making new food with money that we would have spent on that new food. But instead we were able to save. Okay. Buy used clothes and furniture. This is something that I know some of you are probably cringing right now, but that is what most of my house is made up of, is furniture from Marketplace. My wardrobe also comes from the thrift store. This is, I can tell you right now, from Salvation Army, and pretty much everything I'm wearing is from Salvation Army. And on Wednesdays, everything is 25% off, the whole store. So if you ever want to go to Wednesdays, Salvation Army, it's a good deal. There's some other ones. There's one in, I don't know how many of you guys are local, but there's a thrift store in like Del City, I think, called Value Village. And I think on Thursdays, everything's half off. So anyway, there's just that's what I do for clothes. That's what I do for my kids' clothes. There's a lot of us, so just saves me a ton of money. And you can find some great brands there. Furniture, this chair I'm sitting in, this came from Craigslist. I bought 12 of these and I got a really good deal on them. And then I bought these little seat covers from like, I don't know, Shein or something. So my couch came from Marketplace. I'm telling you, my house came from Marketplace and I saved a lot of money on that. So another thing that if you really, really hate buying things used, because you can wash them, but if you hate it, wait for things to go on sale. Don't be impulsive. That's a huge deal. My TV here in the living room, it was a $700 TV and I waited like 3 months for Black Friday and I ended up getting for $280. So I saved several $100s just because I wasn't impulsive and I waited. So very, very important to not be impulsive. Oh, another thing I was going to say about Marketplace, I just saw my note on that. Compare, because sometimes you'll go to Marketplace and you'll think because it's used that you're getting a good deal. But sometimes people put the same price or even a little bit higher than what they paid for it. And so when I see something, you can actually take a picture, like screenshot it, and then go to Google and put it in your photos and you can find that exact same thing. This is how I bargain shop all the time. You can find that exact same thing all over the internet. And so see if that price is the best price. And you might be able to find something cheaper. I do the same thing when I'm shopping on Amazon or Walmart or any of those places. I take a picture, I put it in Google Photos, and I look and see what's the best price. So that's another thing you can do. And then also, what can you get rid of? What can you sell? What can you can sell all the things that you don't use. And I mean, I do end up giving away my clothes since they come from the thrift store anyway. And I don't want to mess with that, but like big things like furniture or things I'm just not using, I will put those on Marketplace and I'll sell them. Shoes, Marketplace, anything like that, Marketplace, and sell them. Get some extra money that way. And when you get that extra money, you can put that towards debt. We'll talk about that in a minute. If you have time to couponing is a really great way to save money. I've never gotten into it. I don't really have the time to do it, but I've seen people do it and do it really well. It seems like it can be a full-time job for some people, but if you have the time to learn it and do it, awesome. Oh, I used to follow that one lady. I can't remember her name. Crazy Coupon Lady. If you go to her, it's just like with a K, I think, crazy with a K. But Crazy Coupon Lady, she's got deals all the time and like how all you have to do is do this and that and you can get this for $6 or so follow her stuff too. I don't really follow her anymore because I mostly get used stuff these days, but you can follow her too. Okay, another thing, cancel all the subscriptions you're not using. We have so many subscriptions or gym memberships or things that we are just not using. I remember holding on to my gym membership forever just because I kept thinking I was going to go and I never went. So I finally got rid of it. So just something like that, just look through your phone, what are you paying for on Apple? Like I'm always canceling subscriptions that I didn't even know I had. So cancel anything you're not using. That will save you some money. What can you get rid of as far as, can you get rid of cable? Do you have to have cable? We don't have cable anymore. We just pay like $15 a month for Hulu and Disney Plus. That's what we pay for. And we have a Fire Stick, and a Fire Stick has a bunch of other things on it. And a Fire Stick was like $25. So, but it's just a one-time. So see what you can get rid of in your home that can make your utilities go down. Another thing you can do is you can actually call, like if say my cell phone bill was pretty high. And so I call AT&T and I'm like, my bill is really high. What can you do? What kind of things do you have going on? Do you have anything like any specials? And every time I call, they're like, hey, you're in luck. I do have a special. This will save you $40 or whatever. But it's crazy how many times I've gotten my bill reduced just by calling because I was like, I don't like my bill. So I've gotten it reduced. You can do the same thing with your internet. You can do the same thing with your TV. So always room for negotiation on those things. So just at least call and see. It doesn't hurt. I usually do that when I'm like driving and I actually have the time to, make a phone call and do that. Okay, so here is one of the places I don't agree with Dave Ramsey. He says don't have a credit card, they're bad. I say do have a credit card if you can always spend what you can pay off every month. You never want to have a credit card debt. I like having a credit card because I get rewards, I get points. And some of you probably have seen me post about the new thing I'm doing that I'm going to move all everything to there because I'm going to get a lot more rewards and more points. I didn't come on here to tell you about that. If you want to know, I'll tell you later. But I think it's great to have one, but you do have to make sure that you are only spending what you can pay off every single month. Never let a balance go on a credit card. So even if you're like, oh, I can only pay 200 out of this 500, figure out how to pay the full 500. It's so important that you do that. I should have gotten out of whatever I've got my windows on in here because it's making noise. So make sure that you only spend what you can pay off 100% each month, 100% of that. And then I mentioned this earlier, but I have on here only get a loan for something that appreciates. So typically that's property, like a home, land, something like that. An RV depreciates, a mobile home depreciates, a car depreciates. So these things depreciate. So in my opinion, if you're going to buy those things, try to do your best to save up the money to buy those things. You don't have to have the best and greatest and newest car. In fact, that's another thing I'm gonna talk about is the car, but I'll get there in a second. I already said all that. Okay. Shop your auto and home insurance every year because it's going to always go up. It's going to change. So every year I go to my broker and I say, this is a little bit high. What do you have for me? And she'll check that out and see what she can get for me better. Hey, let me get out of this because it's driving me insane. I don't even see where it is. So it's okay. All right. So shop your home and auto insurance every single year because chances are you might be able to find a better deal. And there might be someone that you can even, like you might just call different companies. Like I have a broker that I use and I would love to stay with her as long as she can, and she does tend to find me a better deal when I ask. So you just have to ask sometimes. Sorry, I am trying to figure out how to get out of whatever this is that I'm in, but I can't find it. Oh, there it is. I was like, I know it's Facebook, but I can't find it. It's okay. I have too many tabs open. Okay, here's a big one, but it seems like a no-brainer, but we do it. Turn off your lights and your other electronics in your house when you're not in there. I mean, my kids leave their lights on all the time and I'm always telling them turn them off, but sometimes I just have to go out there myself and turn off their lights because I leave them on. But just even having like, if you have a lot of windows in your house, don't turn your lights on. Leave your lights off until you have to turn them on. We pretty much have our lights off all day long until the evening. And that's only because it gets dark outside, right? Another thing is using LEDs. That will save you power if you change from the fluorescent to the LED, which I don't even think they have fluorescent anymore, but oh, and I learned this recently. You guys probably already know this, but space heaters use a ton of energy. So it's probably better for you to actually turn your heat on a little bit higher than to have space heaters going. So I didn't realize that until I got a bill. So they use a lot of energy. So don't use those. But keep your temperature at a decent setting. This is another thing that we always do is if we're cold in the house, we're like, go get more clothes on. If we're hot, take off your clothes, So we try to keep our temperature at a decent setting to where our bill is never too crazy. Let's see. Think about your big purchases for at least 36 hours, especially a car. And that's like when you go into a car dealership and you're wanting to buy a car and they try to, give you this deal, typically if you say, you know what, I just need some time to think about it, they might even give you a better deal. And even then it's like, that's fine. I appreciate that. We'll come back tomorrow if we think it's a good idea, So 36 hours on big purchases. My husband and I have a thing where $50, if anything's over $50 that we talk to each other about that purchase. So you might have a certain number, that's our number. I'm not going to go spend $100 without him knowing. So, buy generic. This is another thing that we are really big on. If I go to Walmart and I shop at Walmart, I'm probably going to get Great Value everything if I can, because I'm going to save probably half. I'm going to, I could be spending double if I get the name brand. There's nothing wrong with generic. Had it my whole life. If you receive unexpected income, like if you get a tax return or an inheritance or who knows, whatever if you get something for, I don't want to say birthday and Christmas, but I end up saving that stuff, but up to you on that, because that could be a gift. But if you get some type of unexpected income, don't spend it. Instead, use it to either pay off debt or to, and we can talk about investing in a minute, save it or invest it. But don't just spend it, because that's the problem is so many people are like, I got extra money, I'm just going to go blow it over here. And then you have nothing to show for. So everything is negotiable with cash. And the reason I say this is, and I've learned a little bit more about why it's negotiable, because there's these interchange fees that we're all paying on all of our credit card swipes, right? So even if we're using cash, we're still paying it because that 3% is built into every single purchase. When I go to Walmart, Walmart's turning around and paying 3%, but they're keeping a little bit of the 3% I paid because I used cash, right? So if you with cash, everything is negotiable. You could probably go into Best Buy and negotiate a TV down a little bit because they have a little bit of margin if you're paying cash. Another thing that I do is I don't personally have medical insurance. I'm not saying you shouldn't have it. I do think it's a little bit of a scam, but I personally put a couple $100s away every single month for medical bills. I have been able to negotiate every single medical bill I've ever gotten, and I usually get about 70% off. That's about the average. 70% is about the norm for almost every single bill I've ever received. And I have, and I'll tell you about this in a minute too. I'm not a financial advisor. I have one, and I have a life insurance policy with living benefits, which basically means that if I were to have a heart attack or a stroke or whatever, or something major happened, then that money would pay out and pay my medical bills. So even though I don't have insurance, I can take care of all the small things because I can get 70% off, right? Because they're not going to get anything out of me anyway. They know that because I don't have insurance. So they'll just say, okay, well, we want you to pay something. So how about this? And they'll tell me an amount and I'll pay it. And I always know going into an office, like what's my pay when I come in for a doctor's appointment or something. Okay. I find out ahead of time. So anyway, all that's negotiable. And again, the life insurance with living benefits, I have a couple people that I can refer you to if you guys want to do that. I don't get a kickback for that either. I could if I got my license, but I'm not getting my license for it because I don't want to. Just let them keep it all. But I do have a couple friends who do that, but I'm happy to set you up with if you want information on that. And then, let's see. Okay, so here's some other ways that you can save money. Trying to do things that are DIY is really big. A lot of times there's a lot of easy fixes in like a home, or like one time our garbage disposal went out. I didn't realize how easy it was to replace and how cheap it is to buy. And so just little things like that you can like look up on YouTube and, fix yourself, like, installing lights. We installed all of our light fixtures, all of our faucets, put all of our hardware on, like those little things that really add up. We did all that stuff ourselves. We even put our cabinets together and installed them. Like, so, there's some things that you can do yourself that will save you money. And then going to the library for books instead of buying them. That's really big. And then you also don't have extra crap in your house that you've got to get rid of later. Never buy a brand new car. So I told you I was going to talk about cars in a minute. So when you buy a brand new car, the minute you drive it off the lot, it has depreciated probably, I don't know what percentage, but I would say $10,000 to $15,000 per vehicle, depending on what it is. Could be even more than that because vehicles have gone up so much in price. But the depreciation on most vehicles is insane. So I never buy a new car. The cars I buy are about 3 years old, 3 to 4 years old. And I usually try to buy a car with about 30,000 miles on it because I put 40,000 miles a year on my car as a realtor. So, but that's me personally. So, and also if you own your own business, you can write off a lot of miles and you actually get a lot of money for your mileage. So that's kind of awesome. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. So I mentioned this earlier, save up and pay cash for any vehicle. And let's see. Oh, vacation. So let's talk about vacations. I love vacations. It's one of the things that we do a lot of, but I do them on a very, very strict bargain shopping type deal. So And of course, now with, of course, some of you are on here that do this, but the new thing I'm doing has vacations and has hotels, and it's actually cheaper because, I'm a bargain shopper. So I've gone to Priceline and Booking.com and all the places compared. I'm going to save money in this new thing I'm doing. However, shop around. And that's what I was saying. Another thing that we do a lot of is camping. Camping is very cheap. There's also Bureau of Land Management, BLM land. You can find a lot of BLM land all over the United States, and it is completely free to camp there. And it's usually like beautiful and amazing, and you can kind of just find a place and do what you want. And it's really, really, really neat. So if you do any camping, find some BLM land or just find a good camp spot, but usually you can spend less than $30 camping for the spot itself. And then, get your groceries and make stuff on the fire. It's real fun. And then other thing that we've done a lot of is using people's timeshares. If you have a friend or a relative that has a timeshare, use their timeshare. Don't go buy one. Please don't go buy a timeshare. But if you know people that have one, use their timeshares. We have stayed in really, really awesome places for $300 for the whole week. And like Mexico and places like that because of timeshares. So use someone else's. I don't think it's a good deal to buy one, but if you have someone else that will let you use theirs for a week, you can pay $300, $400 for a week. Okay. Ask for discounts. Another thing is like I have called a hotel before and been like, hey, I see that you have a lot of openings, like you had a lot of rooms tonight. We're coming in, we're going to be in there really, really late. So we're really just sleeping for a few hours. Is there any kind of discount you can give me? And they've given me a discount. There other places have not, but it never hurts to ask. And I have no shame in asking. So let's talk about ways to make extra income. So what are you good at? So think about some of the things that you know how to do. And even if if you don't have a specific skill or a specific trade, what are things that you could do? So like, for example, I think about my 18-year-old son. When he was 10, he started his own business picking up dog poop. Anybody can pick up dog poop. There is no shame in that. As a 10-year-old to 14-year-old, he had like 4 or 5 houses a week that he would pick up just in our neighborhood. He'd ride his little hoverboard around the neighborhood and pick up dog poop with his $15 pooper scoopers. That's how much it cost to start his business, $15. And that kid saved $7,500 for those 4 years of doing poop scoop. That was only with like 4 to 5 houses a week. Like, can you imagine? He could have done a lot more if I would have driven him all around Edmond, but I wasn't going to do that. So, and now he's a car detailer and he owns his own car detailing business at 18. And so there's things like that. Like, this isn't something that he just was automatically good at. He learned how to do it. So it's something that he learned. It was a learned skill, a learned trade. And so you could do that too. You could pull weeds, just little things that you can think of that you can do. Or like I said, what are you good at? Like, for example, I have a degree in music education. So I used to teach piano lessons, voice lessons, guitar lessons. I did all that for 20 years. So that's something that if I needed to fall back on and make some extra money, I could. So just things like that. Like, think of what you know how to do. Photography. I never went to school for photography, but I have a good eye. So I've been a photographer for 15 years also, so just things like that. Uber, Lyft, Uber Eats, all of those places like Shipt, and I think I wrote down several of them. Grubhub, I don't even know what's still around. Postmates, I don't even know what's still in business, but you get the idea. So start some type of business, just like my son, started picking up dog poop, start a landscaping business, mow lawns. I mean, there's so many things that you can do to earn a little extra income. So when you have that extra income, we're going to talk about what you can do with it. Oh, another thing he did was since we live in Oklahoma, during tornado season, right before tornado season, he would tell everybody in the neighborhood that he is doing $25 clean outs of their storm shelter. So they would come out, he would just vacuum it out, go make $25 a pop, And so there's other little things that you can do. Oh, also rover.com, care.com. These are websites if you want to like watch people's dogs. Rover and care.com is for like kids. So you can do that. I also wrote down wait tables because I have waited tables for a lot of my life. And even with a college degree, I went back to waiting tables a few years back when we were building this house because I had 2 mortgages and I needed to pay for those 2 mortgages. So I went back to work 8 hours a night, every night, waiting tables at Longhorn Steakhouse and made $40 an hour. But I knew I could make more there than I could if I went back to teaching, So that's why I did that. So just little things that you can do to make money. I already talked about selling stuff. There's also side hustles. MLM, there's so many great MLMs out there, guys. You guys know that's changed my life. So I'm really big on that, but you do have to work really hard at that. It's not just like gonna fall in your lap, like we were talking about earlier, Suzanne. Okay, so now let's talk about paying off debt, okay? And if you want to know about companies and side hustles and stuff and whether one is good and one is not good, feel free to ask me. I've done tons of research on all of them, so I'm happy to tell you. So I do follow Dave Ramsey here on the debt snowball. So if you guys don't know what that is, I'm going to explain it to you. But basically the debt snowball is just paying off the smallest debt first. And so it's kind of like, it's a win. So you've paid off your small debt. It's a win. Growing up, my parents taught me to pay off the debt that has the largest percentage of interest. Like if I had a 5% rate on this one and a 2% rate on this one, well, I should pay off the 5% first because it's taken more of my money. Where Dave Ramsey says, pay off the smallest debt first. And I can see why that would be a big deal, because if I pay off one full debt, then that payment's done, right? And so that's what I'm going to teach tonight. But so whatever debts you have, line them up, draw them out, whatever you want to do, put them down on paper, put them in Excel, whatever you guys do. And write out what you owe on it, write out what your payment is. So you're going to start with your smallest debt first. Okay. So say your smallest debt is a credit card and it's $3,000. And then your next debt is your car and it's $10,000. So we're going to start with the credit card. Well, your payment on that is, let's say $200 a month. Well, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to find some extra money. So all those things I just talked to you about, working on these, a side hustle or finding a trade or, doing all these different things that you can do. And there's also so many things now, like drop shipping and affiliate marketing and there's so much that you could do. But anyways, finding that extra money and taking that extra money and putting it towards that debt. So you're paying way over your payment. So as soon as you get that one paid off, then you take your $200 plus, let's say you were putting an extra $100 a month on it. So now you're taking that full $300 and you're taking all of that and putting it on your other payment. So say your other payment is $300 a month. Well, now you're taking $600 total monthly and you're putting it on the next debt. And so it's snowball effect. Does that make sense? So once you pay off one debt, you take that full payment plus whatever extra, you put it on the next debt, you're paying that full payment plus all this from this other one that you've paid off. And you keep doing that until all your debts are paid off. And so that's how you get out of debt. That's the best way to get out of debt. But you have to be diligent. And just like Dave Ramsey says, if you want to live like no one else, you've got to live like no one else. Meaning you've got to live a little crazy right now. Maybe your friends want to go out to eat and you're like, I can't, or you go and you have a soup that you share or something, that's what we've done. It's like, we don't want to miss out, but we'll just go and we'll just get some water, like we already ate, we've done that plenty of times. So another thing is, let's see. Okay, I already talked about that. Another thing that I do is, if you pay your mortgage on the 1st, that's fine, but it's not due till the 15th. It's actually, I think, due the 16th, but keep your money in like Fidelity or some kind of investment and let it make money for you, because all the bank is doing is they're getting your money on the 1st for your mortgage and they're making money on it until the 15th or 16th when it's due. So you do that yourself. Why don't you make money on your payment for your mortgage in one of your investment accounts and let it continue to make money until you have to pay your payment. So that's another thing that's just a little silly trick, but it will add up over time because the bank's making money off of you and they're holding your money for 15 days. Okay, let's see. I'm almost done. All right, I want to talk about investments now. I do have several investments. I'm not going to go over what they all are because I don't want you to think I'm trying to sway you to do investments with me. I have found some really great companies with things and I'm happy to share with you guys. I'm just not going to put it in this recording. So one of the things that my dad also left me when he passed away was silver, a lot of silver. And I've learned how much, and it goes up and down over the years, but I've learned how much it's appreciated since he got it. And so I have now been purchasing silver every single month for like the last 7 months or so. And so I found a really great company that gives me a good quality. It also shows me what it can be worth later on. And there's all like these cool things with it. So I'm happy to share that with you later if you want, but silver is a really great investment regardless. So is gold, just more expensive. So that's why I'm getting silver. So, And then I mentioned Fidelity being an investment, that Fidelity Investments account. I use that personally. You can also have it professionally managed, which is what I'm doing. And so I'm making a little bit more than I would, but it also has the potential to lose because it's I think it's like in stock somehow. I don't understand stocks, but it's in that somehow, but I'm paying them to professionally manage it, but it should still end up better than it would if I just let it sit and make 5%. So it's making a little bit more than that because I'm having it professionally managed. You do have to have a minimum amount to do that though. So if you don't have the minimum, then just let it sit and make 5%. Stocks and crypto, I don't know a lot about those, I'll be honest, but I know that they're good investments. I do have one crypto investment that's doing really, really well. I'm happy to share that too, but not on the recorded. And then I mentioned this throughout here a little bit, and this was not my intention for this call, but the new thing that I am doing is going to save people money, and I'm really passionate about it as well. And so, anyway, that is the main thing. So the other thing about investments is I really think it's important to try to get as much debt as you can paid off before you try to invest. That's what Dave Ramsey says. However, I'm really big on, I really think that you need to have a little bit of investment started just because it's easier to do, to like kind of do more later once your debts are all paid off. And one final thing is life insurance, like a whole life insurance policy. Dave Ramsey teaches the opposite. He says to do term life insurance. I think term is important too. It's very affordable. But the whole life policies are something that you can use for retirement. And so that's one of the things, like I told you, I have a financial advisor. I don't get a kickback for sharing, who she is or who I have another friend who does it too. That's who my, not long-term care, what's it called? That's why I have it in here because I forgot what it's called. The thing where if I die or if I don't die, but I'm like, I don't remember. But anyways, it's living benefits. I just thought of it. So living benefits. So living benefits is great because if I have a stroke or a heart attack or whatever, it's going to pay my bills, but that's built into my whole life insurance policy. So I have this whole life insurance policy and it's an indexed account that doesn't eat itself. I've done all the research, which basically means that if the stock market were to plummet, I just don't make anything. I don't lose anything. I just don't make anything, which also means that if the stock market were to go super, super high, I'm not going to go super high, but I'm going to come, decent high. But over time, if you look at the growth, you will have just steady growth. It just goes like this instead of it being like, and so that to me, I don't like to gamble. And I feel like I'm not gambling by having the IUL, the indexed universal life policies. But you have to be careful how they're set up. If they're not set up correctly, they can eat itself over time. So you want to make sure that you are with someone who really knows what they're doing. So don't just go to anybody down the street. I'm not saying you have to go to my person. I'm just saying you want to make sure that you've asked all the right questions. Like, please explain to me how this won't eat itself in 20 years or, whatever. So I'm going to stop the recording. Ooh, if I know how to. Feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, here we go.